Coming up today on the Locked On Hornets podcast, LaMelo Ball shows up on the injury report for the first time this season. What's his status for the Minnesota Timberwolves game? We'll discuss what his absence could mean not only for this game, but also what it means the rest of the way. And Brandon Miller, Tidjane, Salaun, both of their options got picked up. What does that mean for the young players on this roster? We'll get to all of it today on Locked On Hornets.
You are Locked On Hornets, your daily Charlotte Hornets podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
In a minute, cuz we live.
It's Locked On Hornets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day. Thanks for making us your first listen. We're free. We're available anywhere you get your pods. That includes YouTube. Subscribe, like, rate us, do all the stuff your favorite YouTuber tells you to do. Doug Branson is not with me today. He was going solo a couple times for these game recaps. I told him I'd get him on the back end. And so I'm giving you guys a Saturday episode. I really thought about bringing out like a Bloody Mary or something like that, just chilling a little bit with all the people of Locked On Hornets, all the sickos out there. But instead, I just got like more energy drinks, straight chemicals to my face. I got to get ready for a very busy Hornets day for yours truly. I got this pod to roll with. Then I'm doing the Hornets pregame show on WFNZ from 5 to 6. A weird tip time today, 6 o'clock today, 6 o'clock on Sunday. So I'll be doing all of that, and I need caffeine. I need it to survive. I didn't used to be addicted to it. Now I want it if I'm not addicted to it. So I'm scratching my neck. I'm getting my fix. This is what we're choosing to drink on a Saturday. But hopefully everybody's having a good weekend. Hopefully the Hornets have one as well. Listen to me, by the way, Walker Mail, on Sports Radio 92.7 WFNZ every weekday from 12 to 3 p.m. And last but not least, before we dive into it, I got to tell you this episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Head to FanDuel.com to get started. Yeah, not starting with some great news here. The injury report came out yesterday. Recording this, by the way, Saturday, November 1st, the day of the Timberwolves game. And the injury report came out on Halloween, and it was a little spooky because we saw LaMelo Ball listed on that injury report as questionable for the Minnesota game due to right ankle impingement. Josh Green, Brandon Miller, Grant Williams also on the injury report. We know about Josh Green and Grant Williams. There's still some questions that we need answered with Brandon Miller's timeline, but it's not like we were surprised about the other three names. Maybe we shouldn't be surprised about LaMelo being on the list, but LaMelo, due to right ankle impingement, is questionable, and we do not have any word as of this recording, getting close to noon, before the game. By the way, last thing here, Hornets, they transferred KJ Simpson from Greensboro to the Charlotte Hornets roster. So if LaMelo can't go, then KJ Simpson is here as some backcourt reinforcement, which if he's here in Charlotte, if he's ready to go tonight, then maybe that is a hint as to LaMelo not suiting up against the Timberwolves. So let's talk about the impingement. If you go back to last year, when LaMelo was missing all of these games, he would miss games because of the ankle injury. But for a while, especially in the second half, like post-All-Star break, they would say that LaMelo might miss a game due to ankle soreness. A couple of times he did get injured, but it wasn't the catastrophic ankle injury that would hold him out for an entire year's worth of time, right? He would come back after a week or two, whatever the timelines were. It was relatively temporary. And then at the end of the season, after seeing some ankle soreness, right? LaMelo, questionable, ankle soreness. They kept using that word. March 27th, the injury report before the March 28th game against Toronto, there was a new word. LaMelo out due to ankle impingement. All right. Not a doctor, not going to try to pretend to be one. All I know is when the Hornets started using that word, ankle impingement, he didn't play another game. He missed the last 10 games of the season. They would list him out, not even questionable, really. I don't even think he was questionable in that Toronto game the first time they used the word, but he would miss every single game after that, right? He missed the entire rest of the season. Maybe that's due to the Hornets not playing for anything whatsoever. I mean, this was late March going into April, the last 10 games of the season. Maybe they just decide, look, LaMelo, I don't know how much this is benefiting anyone if you're going to be playing with a bunch of players that, one, aren't going to be on the roster this year, the upcoming season. If they are going to be within our organization, they might be back down in Greensboro. It's only hurting your ankle and it's only hurting your stats. So we're just not going to play you. Yeah, that is a I don't want to say probability, but it is a possibility for sure. All I know is when they've used that word, we have not seen LaMelo suit up for a basketball game. So I think it's a pretty big game time decision tonight. If he plays, then I guess this isn't going to be a huge indicator as to what we can expect every time they use this word. I keep saying this word like it's Voldemort. It's those we don't speak of. Ankle impingement. Now, I'm learning a lot about body parts with the Hornets injury reports. Scapholunate. I'll just in my brain forever. Now impingement after only having heard sorta. Anyways, these words now they'll never leave my brain. That's all I know is that he doesn't suit up. If he does suit up, great. We won't have to be as scared of impingement on injury reports anymore. But it's a big deal. Because not only do we have the big deal of LaMelo, your best basketball player, missing a game, but every game counts. It not only for the wins and loss record, right? But it counts for LaMelo potentially receiving some of these accolades that I think the talent could actually win him. But the health has not allowed him to win some of these accolades. We know with the new rules, you have to play 65 games in a basketball season to be eligible for All NBA, for some of these other awards that you might receive at the end of the season. And he has not reached that threshold except for the one time when it wasn't even a rule back his sophomore campaign in the league. So every game counts, man. Now, okay, talking about 17 games you're allowed to miss. If you miss this one against Minnesota, all right, now you only have 16 that you're working with. What if you suffer another different type of injury that holds you out for a week or two? All right, so now you're talking about what? 5 games within that threshold. I want LaMelo to win some stuff, not only for him, but helps for the team. It helps for the morale. But yeah, for the most part, I think LaMelo wants some of that stuff. And I would like for him to be able to achieve it and not only have it taken away from him because his body wouldn't allow him to receive it. We also know that LaMelo, he just matters for the Hornets to win basketball games, right? It's this vicious cycle of, well, okay, LaMelo's not going to be eligible for accolades if he doesn't play enough games, but also he might not get the benefit of the doubt. It's probable that he wouldn't get the benefit of the doubt if he doesn't play, because when he doesn't play, the Hornets don't win games. And when the Hornets don't win games, that only enhances the narrative that LaMelo isn't a winning player, even if the Hornets are way worse when LaMelo isn't on the court. It doesn't make sense, I know, but that's the storyline that national pundits have been running with this entire time. Hence me being unhinged. You can look on the bullet point there on YouTube if you're watching. I'm unhinged at this point. You know, and it's all fun and games until it's like, well, are we doing this again, man? I don't want to live in the misery. I don't want to make light of the misery because I don't want there to be any misery to make light of. I just know when you have a team with 2 awesome young players that are, to this point, frequently injured, you come into a season with all of these good vibes, all of this hope, and you say one of those top 2 players is going to leave the game early, the second game of the season, and not play by the time we get to the 6th, can't be a good sign, no matter how you slice it. And if you're going to tell me that your best player in LaMelo isn't going to make it to the 6th game before he shows up on the injury report, it's not great. It's also not doomsday. We are better prepared here in Charlotte now that they have Colin Sexton and 3 rookies, 2 in the backcourt that are just absolutely balling. So we have other beacons of hope to look to, which is no small thing. But ultimately, we know what it really matters. What really matters this year, yeah, it's the rookie growth, which I want to talk about that in the last segment too. It's all about the rookies and how it shifts the goals of 2025, 2026. But we know a big goal was to see what LaMelo and Brandon look like on the court with one another. So now we don't get these guys. We only get LaMelo, who maybe playing a little bit differently. I don't think it's a coincidence that LaMelo took the least amount of shots so far in a game, the only game that he played with Brandon, right? The season debut, it was Brandon they were leaning on in the half court for some offensive production. LaMelo only took 15 field goal attempts. Since then, with Brandon going out, he's been taking about 20, averaging 19, even more so than that. I think averaging like 21, 22. It's just a different style in which LaMelo plays, which isn't bad. I have no problem with LaMelo taking that many shots, to be honest with you. He's certainly capable of it, except I want my team to practice how they want to look 2 years from now. And they can't do that if we keep seeing these scapholunits, these subluxations, these impingements, all of this medical jargon I don't want to know about. But the more I know about it, the more I don't get to see my basketball team prepare themselves for the future. And that's what's maddening about being a Hornets fan at this point. But it's not doomsday stuff because we do have other things to cheer for. Let's talk about some of those other things. And let's talk a little bit more also about Brandon Miller coming up next on the Locked On Hornets podcast. Tidjane Salaun had his third-year option picked up. Brandon Miller had his fourth-year option picked up. Neither one a surprise. I don't think there's much interesting to say about the Tidjane option pickup. There will be about the fourth-year option for him, but there are some interesting things to discuss with Brandon Miller's contract extension. Let's get to it. Coming up next, LOH. This episode is brought to you by Robinhood. Your ambition just met its match. With Robinhood, you play for the win, not just on game day, every day. Locking in on every opponent, beating your PR, beating it again. Channel that drive into your money. Robinhood puts you in control of your money. Trade stocks and ETFs, options, futures, and crypto all in one platform. You can now build and execute your own trades from a desktop with Robinhood Legends advanced tools. Or you can take advantage of the new Robinhood strategies with a tailored portfolio managed by a team of experts. You expect more from yourself. Expect more from your money. Get started today at Robinhood.com/yourmoney. Again, that's Robinhood.com/yourmoney. Your money, your move. This episode is also brought to you by DoorDash. The NBA season, it's heating up, baby. It's here. Thank God. And DoorDash has found the perfect way to keep fans in their bag all season long. Whether you're watching for the highlights, your fantasy team, or just your favorite player, DoorDash makes every game night even better. DoorDash is the official on-demand delivery platform of the NBA, and they're celebrating with something called the Bag Drop. Every time an NBA player scores 50 points in a game, DoorDash drops 50% off your order with Dash Pass the next day, and you're automatically entered for a chance to win the ultimate fan bag. We're taking player-inspired drip, exclusive gear, stuff you'll actually like and actually want, and putting it in the ultimate fan bag. You got a chance to win it if you take advantage of this deal and you take advantage of DoorDash. So next time someone goes off for 50, which has been happening a little bit in the early portion of the NBA, use promo code NBA50 the next day to get 50% off on DoorDash with Dash Pass. Plus your shot at the bag drop. Dash Pass members only. 50% off up to $10 the next day after a 50-point game with promo code. Terms apply. No purchase necessary. Ends April 13th. Open to U.S. residents 21 or older. Visit DoorDashInYourBag.com for full details. DoorDash in your bag all season long. More Locked On Hornets ahead. We know that Salaun and both had contract extensions. They both had their options, I should say, picked up. If you go to ESPN.com, we knew that this was going to happen. Bobby Marks kind of gave us a heads up on this being the final deadline that you were able to pick up some of the options for your second and third year players. And here I am playing the music. Jesus. I was trying to make sure that I could actually, run a show by myself with the producer not being here. But anyways, sometimes I make mistakes. Yeah. So we have the two options picked up. You look at Tidjane Salaun. He had his third year option picked up after averaging, 5.9 points per game, 4.7 rebounds last season, and in 5 games this year, it's gone down a little bit, which maybe we expected because of the lack of volume with more talent. 4 points, 4.8 rebounds, but the Hornets did exercise the third-year team option. I don't think there's a lot to talk about here with Tidjane. Not here. I think next year, I think it becomes much more interesting because you look at the worst draft that the Hornets have had in quite some time. It was when they traded up to go get Kai Jones after already having selected James Bouknight. I mean, even those guys had their third-year team options picked up. So, yeah, and it's not like they gave you a ton to be excited about in the very early portions of their career. It just happens so fast. You always pick this up because, I mean, you think about it. We saw 1 year from Tidjane. You have to pick it up by the deadline, which is October, whatever, late October, pretty much as the season starts. So you're talking about a full season and change of the very beginning chapters of these NBA players' careers. And you're not going to give up on a guy that quickly. Usually, you're not going to give up on a guy that quickly. And so, of course, you're going to pick it up. Anyways, not much to talk about with Tidjane, but the options picked up. I think there's a little bit to talk about with Brandon Miller, because the Hornets also exercised their team option on Brandon, which we all knew was going to happen, right? Averaging 14.5 points, 4 assists this season in just the game and a half that he played. So those numbers, I don't think are all that relative to be, or all that important, to be honest with you. He's been out since suffering the left shoulder subluxation injury that happened in the second quarter of that game against Philly. Brandon only played 27 games in his sophomore campaign, but anytime he was injured his rookie year, he'd only miss a couple games here and there, and then he would come back. And that was a big deal. So we thought, okay, with a team that had so many injuries, when one of your best players finds a way to come back from it relatively quickly, cool, good. Hasn't happened. Hasn't happened since that rookie season. So I think the interesting conversation with Brandon happens a year from now or 10 months from now, next offseason. What do the Hornets do with that fifth-year option? So if you start to ask questions about those negotiations, I want to look at some of the precedent that had been set just this past offseason. Jabari Smith is somebody that comes to mind. Houston and Jabari, they came to terms on a 5-year extension worth roughly $122 million. So you're talking about basically, what, almost $25 million annually. Okay. The extension, of course, the money kicks in next year. You have that with Jabari. Dyson Daniels is also somebody from that 2022 draft class that right up to the wire, man, you're talking October 20th is when they picked up that option on Dyson, and they agreed to a 4-year, or excuse me, they had a contract extension, not picked up the option. But Atlanta and Dyson Daniels, they agreed to a 4-year, $100 million rookie contract. All right, that's about $25 million. Keegan Murray, Sacramento, they went up to the deadline. That deal was done October 15th. They agreed to a 5-year, $140 million rookie contract extension. All right, so that's what, $28 million? God, I probably am messing up with the math, but $28 million annually for Keegan. So 24, 25, 28, Shaedon Sharpe, 4 years, 90. You're talking about less than that. I think if you asked all basketball decision makers in the NBA, most of them, whom they'd rather have in this pool of players, including Brandon Miller, Shaedon Sharpe, Keegan Murray, Dyson Daniels, Jabari Smith, without money being a part of it, I think they would choose Brandon. And even if you introduce money, I still think it's Brandon Miller. Dyson Daniels becomes interesting to me just because of the improvement he made last year, being the NBA's most improved player, being an all defensive player, like defensive player of the year worthy type of ability. But the offense, the ceiling there just isn't as high. The shooting just gives you a floor I don't think Dyson gives you right now as an offensive player. So, okay, if you're talking about $25 million annually on average going to all of those players who did get the contract extension, then I think Brandon is going to get more than that. The real, and not a surprise, it's just how much more. So if you go a year from now, I think what makes this year so interesting is in part what's going to happen with those negotiations between Brandon and Charlotte. I think what the Hornets are going to be asking is if Brandon deserves the negotiation like LaMelo got. Like, hey, LaMelo, oh, you're eligible. Here's all of the money. We don't want no problems, man. Cool. Take my money. We want you here. We want you here long term. We don't want to frustrate you. All good. Like we can do this in one meeting, man. We can do this in an hour. Here's all the money. Just go ahead and agree to it. Here's the max. I don't know if you're doing that with Brandon as much as I really like his ability. Do they say, here's the money, we don't want to frustrate you, let's go to work? Or do the Hornets have reason to throw their weight around a little bit? And I think with Brandon, his skill set is such a fail-safe for me. If you go back to Jabari, there are some similarities, right? There's a reason that there were some comps coming out of college basketball going into the NBA, and it's not just because they both played for Alabama schools. You give the deal to Jabari because that's not a failing player, even if he's not living up to the hype of a top 3 selection. But he's not a failing player. I don't see that contract for Jabari being this big albatross that's hard to move. That would happen, I think, if Smith's shooting just fell off of a cliff. I just don't think that's going to happen. Big shooter, defender, get paid. Let's keep it moving. Brandon, in the same vein, isn't going to fail as a basketball player unless his health gets the best of him. That's the big issue right now. So Brandon is a little to a lot better at almost everything, in my opinion, than Jabari Smith. More points per game, better shooting on better volume, better playmaker, better dribbler, more athletic, better in transition. A couple things Jabari is better at, though, like strong defender, willing to abide by his role, do whatever it takes to win. Like those guys are valuable. Jabari Smith, I think, deserves every penny of that contract that he got. Rebounding, he's been very good. And health, that's the big one, man. It's health. So how many games is Brandon going to play? We don't have this timeline, and I do wonder if the Hornets are going to Trey Mand this situation where we just don't ever get any information. I think Brandon Miller is too high profile for the Hornets to be able to just kind of skate on by for, I don't know, months on end without giving us a real timeline on Trey. They were giving us an update every once in a while, and then they retreat like Homer Simpson in the bushes. We don't know when he's going to come back. Another indefinite timeline. We'll reevaluate him in 2 weeks. Let's go back to the bushes. And then there just weren't as many questions asked. And there were a couple times that I was in press availability with Charles Lee, and I didn't ask him those questions because there were more pressing questions like LaMelo's health. You ask about the stars. That's just kind of how it is, except let's emphasize that part. You ask about the stars. So we'll get information on Brandon at some point, right? The longer this drags out, the higher the curiosity climbs. And the higher the curiosity climbs means you can't hide from the questions. So I don't know what's going to happen with Brandon. I don't know if it even gets to that point. To be clear, we just don't have a lot of info on the timeline right now. If Brandon misses a month, I mean, you're already flirting with that 65-game threshold to get accolades, and he's up for him too. You don't need it to be an all-star, but you need it for most improved player. Brandon Miller was a popular pick out there by national basketball pundits as this year's most improved player of the year nominee. He could do it, and that would be great for Charlotte. That would give us something to hold on to, but also the organization, and it would give Brandon a bargaining chip. When they go to the table, man, I'm already pretty good, and I did get most improved player of the year by accomplishing all of these things. Now you're talking about big money with Brandon. I guess if we want to boil this down to something real simple, contentious seems like the wrong word, but what's the back and forth like? Are there multiple trips back and forth, or are we just talking about a couple of rounds of negotiating and everybody's on the same page? They have the same understanding? Or is Brandon like, look, man, I know I've been hurt, but I know I can ball. Pay me all of the money. And the Hornets are like, yeah, we know you can ball too, but we can't depend on your health at this point. That's the issue. I hope we can, because I just don't. That ultimately, also, I think I would lean on the side of just paying Brandon a lot, because I don't think that's going to be a contract that is this albatross on the books that you can't move without attaching assets to it. It's with Jabari, maybe that contract is too much. It's fine, right? I think it's good, but that's not going to hold them back. Brandon is going to make more than that, but even so, the shooting is real. I mean, yeah, you got some issues. He's not a perfect player, but he's not going to be a failure of a basketball player by any means. So I just don't see that contract being this heavy burden that you carry on your payroll. All right, coming up next on the Locked On Hornets podcast, we got to talk about the Rooks. Do the Rooks and their improvement, everything that we've seen so far this season, does that change goals around here? Also, we have to discuss Ryan Kalkbrenner. I had a chance to talk with him last week, or this just a few days ago, about the ridiculous shooting percentage. And then after our interview, all he did was go 8 of 9 in that game against Orlando. We got to get to all of it. That's coming up next. Final segment, Locked On Hornets. Before we get to that, I got to tell you about FanDuel. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. The NBA is back. There's no better place to get in on the action than with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. And even if you missed the start of the game or want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. It keeps every game exciting, especially when your team is making that late push. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. More Locked On Hornets ahead. Okay, looking at some of the Rooks, they have been excellent. Con Knippel had his worst outing of the season against Orlando. I don't know if anybody else felt like this, though. It's not like Con was amazing. He didn't take over the basketball or anything like that. But I do think that maybe just the offense wasn't flowing through him nearly as much. There weren't as many opportunities for Con to take over. And it's not even like he's taken over the previous games. There just weren't as many opportunities, I think, for him to shine offensively like there were in the games where he scored 11, 14, 20, 19. And I will say it was a tough matchup for him, too. That's a lot of arms coming at you down in Orlando. It's how they've built their basketball team forever, even with no Jalen Suggs. It's just a lot of length, and Con Knippel, not the longest dude in the world, not the tallest either, as we saw in the combine from some of the Con Knippel detractors. The dude has been a baller, though. Clearly a good player right away. Sion James, clearly a good player right away. Got his first start against Orlando. I asked him about it in press availability, and the dude could not have been less impressed. And this is something, by the way, I want to point out. I don't know if anybody else has gathered this too, where you see what all of these rookies have to say about their start. I might have been the one to ask all of them just because it's something I'm personally interested in. I wonder if it's like, hey, okay, geez, buddy, we get it. You're asking about the starts. Cool. Can we move on? That's how it feels like to me. I mean, I would expect these players to have this, like, this huge moment. Oh, man, it was awesome. It was great to see all that hard work come to fruition. And I just haven't gotten any answer like that from the 3 rookies that the Hornets have started in Orlando all in the same game. I mean, when we asked Con, these were all after the games, right? Because the Hornets, understandably, they make the rookies that get their first ever start, they give them press availability. And so it's a question we all ask. And I asked Con about it. Con was like, yeah, I mean, I was able to kind of deduce that I was going to get the start. We saw the lineups and I had the jerseys. I was wearing the jersey along with the starters and playing with LaMelo and Miles. So I kind of knew it was going to happen. So he kind of downplayed the lack of a moment, right? Like he just didn't really have one. Okay. So then I asked Ryan about it. I didn't save that clip, but I asked Ryan about it. And he was like, yeah, I kind of found out because my name was on the list with the other starters. And so I just, figured, all right, it's my time to go to work. Okay. And then I asked Sion about it. And it was the first question of his press conference. And, he said, okay, it was fine. It was cool. It was, I really enjoyed getting my first start, but, certainly don't want to get the loss. And Sion's maybe is a little more understandable because his moment or his start actually came in what was a pretty bad loss after Orlando ran away with things in the fourth quarter. So he's fresh off of a loss. I get it a little more with Sion, but it's just funny. I didn't get an answer that I thought I was going to get from all of them. I didn't get it from any of them. Oh, yeah, it was this great moment. Anyways, Ryan Kalkbrenner did talk about how Charles Lee presented him the basketball from his first ever game. And I don't know what stretch it's from. I don't know. I'm sure Khan got one of the basketballs too. Same with Sion. Maybe Liam got one from the game he made his debut in, which wouldn't happen until a couple of contests later. But the rookies have been sensational, man. They're playing 30 minutes. I mean, we have to remember when we were talking about the center rotation, we all knew Kalkbrenner was going to get some run. But remember, I was making my case about it felt like somewhat of a hard case to make that Kalkbrenner would open up the season as the starter. Lo and behold, that's exactly what happens. Not only is he opening up the season as the starter, Charles Lee keeps telling us it's matchup based. I don't see it with Kalkbrenner in terms of like Musa and him interchanging starting spots. It's really just been, oh, okay, that dude is starting at the 5, and if it's matchup based, every single matchup, it seems like you like him in that starting spot, which is fine. I have zero issues with that part of the rotation, but that is what it is at this point. So goals. LaMelo and Brandon are injured. That sucks. Straight up. Don't want to see that anymore. That was a big part of the measuring stick, the evaluation process. How is this season going to go? A lot of it depends on LaMelo and Brandon, their improvement, how they look on the floor together. We're not getting that because at least Brandon has been out the last few games. We want to get to over 30 wins. I have always said the ceiling for this team, in my opinion, was maybe get to the 7 or 8 seed in the play-in tournament, get home court advantage to some degree with any of the matchups that you might play, and then parlay that into a playoff appearance. That's my North Star. That's my biggest, I think that's my biggest hope for this team. Okay. And if they don't achieve a play-in appearance, I'd be pretty frustrated with that, especially in a weak Eastern Conference. But it did get me thinking, and I don't know where I fall on this yet. Do the goals change if the rookies look this good? Because, I mean, you think about it. The Hornets are 2-3. Their only wins have come against what are expected to be the worst teams in the league. We don't apologize for that. We couldn't beat the Wizards last year. No apology. But facts are facts. Those are going to be among the 2 worst teams in the league. Yet, when you see these losses, I don't think that we come away thinking the rookies are at fault. The fact of the matter is the rookies have been among the better players that they've had on the roster. LaMelo and Brandon when they're out there. Colin Sexton has been just a madman. We got to have a whole episode. No, I didn't say segment, episode. Colin has been that good. You know, I love Musa. Don't have Josh Green or Grant Williams. The rookies have been just fantastic, man. So if we're losing basketball games and we don't get to that goal of winning over 30, do we still feel pretty good? Because 2 second rounders and your top 5 pick all look the part and then some, even if it means grabbing a few more L's than you wanted along the way. I don't know how all that calculus works. I don't know about the puzzle pieces fitting next to one another and still saying it's a success despite having a few more losses. I don't want to move the goalpost backwards to accommodate the Hornets' lack of success. But if the rookies are going to play like this, I don't know about you guys. I don't see it on my Twitter timeline, the text line, the world famous WFNZ text line. They're not full of mentions on just how terrible the rookies have been. And Jeff Peterson, the Hornets missed another draft class. It's actually been quite the opposite. Yet, when we get some of these complaints, it's been about others. It's been about Miles, who has been pretty ice cold after that debut. He's been 40% or below in every single game since. Hit some late threes against Orlando, but that was a bad game for Miles. I think Miles would admit it as well. You know, you have the Brandon injury. You have LaMelo, which I think misguided, but still some complaints about LaMelo, even if, again, I believe it's misguided. So defensively, you probably have some issues. I didn't think Musa was great against Orlando. I think there were some real issues outside of some stretches there, but I don't see any complaints about the rookies, man. So if you know that you have these rookies that are going to be here for a while and yet they still lose a little bit, then I'm not going to feel nearly as bad as I did the last couple of years because it's all about progress. It's all about providing a better tomorrow. And it looks like we are on the right trajectory for a better tomorrow with the way that the kids have been playing. LaMelo was out there with 4 rookies the other night, and it didn't look bad. Although I guess I don't have the numbers. I guess it felt right to have all the rookies, including Liam McNeely, who is more out of the rotation than all the other ones who are, getting 25 minutes plus. Maybe it does change the view on some stuff as we move on, as long as this stuff keeps up over the next however many games, as long as it keeps up throughout the season. Yeah, maybe you do start to change the way you view success with the Charlotte Hornets basketball team. That'll do it for Locked On Hornets. Thanks for making us your first listen. We're free and available anywhere you get your pods, including YouTube. Go check out Doug's Substack still, by the way, everyhornetsboxscore.com. Also, make sure you check out Yahoo Sports Daily. It's good stuff. Doug is helping out behind the scenes. He works really, really hard on that show. So go show him some support by following and watching Yahoo Sports Daily with Jason Fitz and Caroline Fenton. And listen to me, WFNZ, every weekday from 12 to 3 p.m., Sports Radio, 92.7 FM. Have a great rest of your day. Have a great weekend. Go Hornets. We'll be back with you on Monday.